about 47 degrees, which is why I'm so bundled up. I just thought it would turn off by now. There we go. Here I am back at the studio. It's been a week since my last update, and I'm happy to say that the project has moved forward. The contract has been signed and I submitted that first invoice. So I'm just waiting for that first check to come through. In the meantime, I was giving some thought to how I could move forward without spending a lot of money up front. So I started going through my stainless steel materials that I have on hand. I don't have much right now, but I had a sheet of 11 gauge stainless steel that I could use for the side rails. So I built the scale model that will be home. It's 10 feet tall by 5 feet 6 inches wide by 5 feet 6 inches deep. And this way I could take a pattern and cut the material from that pattern. I plotted it onto a piece of paper where every inch equals a foot. And with that, I made a pattern that I'm able to cut the material out and plot it for my cutting lines so that I can move forward with the sculpture without spending any money. I'll start with the side rails and then build a skeleton with stainless steel angle iron. That's something that I will have to order. So there is a way that I've figured out that I can move forward. It's by spending as little money as possible, using the materials I have on hand, doing some things a little more rudimentary style, basic, where I'm plotting everything on my own and not spending any money on a design fee or anything like that. The final thing was cutting it myself rather than having it laser cut. I am also working in sections. For me, it was easier to think of how to move forward in smaller sections. So I consider home a house. There's clapboards and shingles. Those are the decorative elements that will go on the sculpture last. In the meantime, I'm just building the basic skeleton of the piece, which will really be the structural integrity of the whole sculpture. So I'll start building that skeleton, and I'm thinking of the clapboard section as one section, and then the house section as another, and then the final box or pedestal that it sits on will be the last thing that I build. So by breaking up the sculpture into smaller pieces, it just seems less daunting. Today, I'll finish plotting my cutting pieces out of this 11 gauge stainless steel, which will be the side rails. And then I will sand those and get ready to start welding. Cutting and grinding and sanding those will probably take the whole day, but at least I'll be ready to build about next week, which should be great. I do think I can go ahead and spend $1.99 on a new Sharpie. I need to go ahead and get that because I can barely see what I'm drawing here. Since I'm doing this all by hand, based on paper model and my plotting on my own, I don't need to be too exact. The side rails could be shaped once I put everything together. They can be altered within 1.5 inches or 1 inch and still have the desired look that I'm after. So I think that will be okay if my cutting lines aren't so precise. Here are the side rails. They've been cut, grinded, and sanded down. Wow, they're looking good. I've also made a paper template with the solid side of the main part of the structure. I will be able to build this skeleton and then hold the paper shape up to the skeleton to make sure I'm meeting the correct angles and curvatures of both parts. So then when I am ready to order the large piece of metal, cut it and roll it, it should fit right within that main main section. It's been a busy day of grinding and sanding, and I've got a little more to do the rest of the afternoon. So I'm glad that I brought a hot lunch. So much better than a salad. I get my hot lunch, I get to warm up and then get ready for my afternoon of grinding. I save this material from other projects, or if I have some scrap that I can cut to a 90-degree angle, I'll do that and save it for a future project. So all of this will be repurposed material that I can add on to this sculpture. What I'm going to do is prep it so that as I'm building the sculpture, these will be nice and clean, ready to weld and put onto the sculpture. There'll be angles that are between every supportive bar. I'll add an angle every 6 inches. Yeah, adding some structural integrity in there. Thanks for joining me. If you like following along on building large public art and sculpture, please subscribe, and thanks for joining me.